So welcome everyone to today's webinar titled How Mapbox Drives Efficiency and Business Growth in On-Demand Logistics. We're thrilled to see everyone here. This is a great turnout from, like I said, all over the world. We're excited to have you. My name is Kirika Jameson. I am a Senior Strategic Account Manager here at Mapbox and have been working in the location intelligence space for about 14 years. In today's session, I'll be joined by my colleague, Ryan Leidig, an on-demand logistics product lead here at Mapbox. And we'll show you how Mapbox can help improve operational efficiency through a couple different mechanisms, like minimizing delivery times, reducing costs, and driver loyalty. Ryan will showcase the power of our easily integrated APIs and SDKs for the entire delivery lifecycle. Before we dive into the specifics, let me just go through a quick agenda here so that you have a good idea of where we're headed. So we're going to cover on-demand logistics opportunities and challenges, and then look at the Mapbox solutions and benefits that you can derive while trying to solve some of those challenges. We'll highlight a couple of our customer showcases and go through a live demo. We're going to save about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation today, please feel free to post them on the Q&A channel during the meeting, and then we'll go ahead and get to those and answer those at the end of the presentation. Again, going to try to save about 15 minutes there for you. So let's get started. Just looking at the opportunity in the on-demand logistics space, we understand the market size is somewhere around $16.5 billion, which is huge considering before the pandemic, on-demand logistics and on-demand delivery was probably a quarter of that. If we look out and we project where this industry is going, it's projected that in less than 10 years, this will be an $80 billion industry. And you can get from on-demand delivery of medications to food to auto parts. It is a really growing and diverse industry. So there is a wealth of opportunity that presumably most of you are looking to capture. There are some challenges in on-demand delivery. We have challenges around the actual delivery and maximizing that on-time delivery success. We know that on-time delivery drives customer retention, drives a positive experience, and recurring orders. Operational costs are generally the biggest challenge that we hear about in on-demand delivery. Operational costs can be quite high, and working with drivers, it's important that we are able to minimize those costs to create higher profit margins. Optimizing your delivery volume and your routes, right? Making sure you have the right amount of drivers, not too many, not too few, to make all of those deliveries on time and efficiently. Ensuring consistent engagement, again, comes back to on-time delivery success. Being able to retain those customers and have a consistent positive engagement with them helps for repeat orders and order acceptance. And then finally, being able to evolve the customer retention strategy as there are many players in the on-demand delivery space. So with all of these challenges, Mapbox looks to help you address as many as possible to be as successful as possible in the on-demand delivery space. So Mapbox, we solve for a lot of these key challenges that we discussed in the previous slide. And, we're looking to help you address things like operational excellence, customer loyalty, and how to handle multiple vehicle types. Our differentiators are pretty clear, but the main takeaways from this slide would be Mapbox's ability to provide a highly customizable solution from not only how the map looks and feels to your customer, but also being able to customize it with your own proprietary data and deciding how you display that data. Real-time updating of maps. Mapbox is providing these updates to the map constantly, not requiring you to make an update yourself, but being able to provide that data to you seamlessly. Real-time and predictive traffic also tends to be a key differentiator for us, specifically in the on-demand delivery space. And the scale and lack of latency that the Mapbox platform offers. We have a highly performant map rendering engine that can handle large amounts of custom data and displaying of large amounts of live data. And that's why so many of our on-demand logistics partners have chosen the Mapbox platform, everything from Amazon to Wolt or Flyby for curbside pickup. We work with various different brands across the industry to help them bring superior on-time delivery service to their customers so that they can generate that repeat customer business. And now I'll go ahead and turn this over to my colleague, Ryan Leidig. Ryan?
Hey, good. Thanks, Erica. So you saw that all those logos that we work with. And one of the reasons I was tabbed to head up this on-demand logistics vertical a little under a year ago is we started to see consistent problems across the space that most logistics companies had not been addressing, and had been these companies were addressing them ad hoc because no one has looked at them holistically. They're just looking at them within a tunnel of a problem. So we've defined on-demand logistics as a company that has two major characteristics. One, 24 hours from order ingestion to order fulfillment. I used to say 36 hours, and that was allowing for a lot of our grocery delivery partners. They wanted to have an order in and you could change it, but they wanted to have their order stacked the day before. We're seeing them get more efficient, and that 36 hours has shrunk by 12 hours. The other one, with one major exception, is there's no middle mile, meaning that the order is fulfilled from the place where it's sitting right now. There's no shipping between warehouses. So, you're not shipping food from one to another to make a meal. You're coming out, it's coming straight from where it is at that moment. So as we've worked with all these companies, we found there's 5 things that they all consistently do. They ingest orders, they match orders to couriers, whether those are organic couriers that are employees or if they're part-time and on-demand type couriers for like food delivery or grocery delivery. We have order dispatch. We assign the orders and then have them go from wherever they are at that moment to wherever the order needs to be picked up to wherever the order needs to be delivered, which is another thing that's different. A lot of these on demand, instead of going, there's one route from the warehouse to where the order goes. Now we have a second route going in there because we don't always have a consistent level of drivers around. Order delivery obviously picks up the order, drops it off to where they need to go, finding the best routes, and then all the stuff in the back end, the analytics, the tracking, the insight, and the administration. These are the 5 areas where on-demand logistics works, and then some of them, specifically the order matching, the order dispatch, and delivery, is something that's unique to this less than 24 hours and no middle market. So we kind of course, because we're a company that does geospatial stuff, we started to match our products to how this works. And we've come up with not just a template for how, hey, I want to do on-demand logistics. Here's what you need to do, and here's the products you need to put into it, and this is why, and the KPIs that you're going to result, because we don't have a on-time delivery API, and we don't have a maximize driver happiness API. If we did, we'd be making a lot more money. But there's a bunch of parts in there that all contribute this. So this is how we look at it. When your customer's ordering, you want them to be immersed in your brand and in this thing. You don't want, because the competition is out there. We have found through working with these folks, if you do not have, from the time the person opens the app to the time that they say your order has been assigned as on its way, if that's more than a minute, we found more than 50% of our users are going to jump to your competitors. So we want them, one, to feel like, hey, this is a cool experience. You can see some of the stuff we do with Line here. It's that their own icons. We've got the heat map showing where all the stuff is. And it because the SDK is so customizable, we can do it in your company colors, and we can say, hey, how much detail do you really want on your map? The autofill is really important. It's one of those things that you don't think about, but it gets one, when you're doing the autofill, it makes sure that, yes, this is a known address within the database. Two, it keeps the customer moving faster because instead of having to type out everything, usually we can get something in 3 letters after the house number or location number is put in, and it automatically fills it in. It moves them through and gets them to the point where they're purchasing faster rather than getting distracted or somewhere in there. Geocoding is something that, if you're not aware of, all geocoding is we have to work in latitude and longitudes because that's how the Earth is measured. And no one knows, except for geospatial nerds like myself, the lat long of where their house or where their office is. So all geocoding does is take an address, turn it into a lat long. Reverse geocoding, surprisingly enough, turns a lat long into an address. This is a problem, and it's a big data problem. We have gotten it to the point where not only can we geocode based on address, but we can do specific apartment numbers. You see some of in the suburbs, these sprawling apartment complexes. There might be multiple entrances in there, and it gets a much more accurate representation of how the order is going to go through. And we talked about latency matrix it gives a whole, say, hey, I've got this many drivers and this many locations, and it just gets your ETAs and distances in a big chunk of numbers. This is the main thing where you get from order ingestion, and we're going to start talking to order assignment. Is less than 1 second latency, and it's a lot less than 1 second in most places, is one of the things. When you make the order and it says assigning driver and it's spinning around and you sit there just waiting and waiting, this is one of the main contributors to speeding that up. So we go to the next slide. I talked about it a little bit, how we go with that. Instacart is using our geocode to specifically find a better way and a faster, more accurate way of locating where things are. They are using this to do the search when you do the inputs, and you're getting a faster and more accurate checkout and so that leads to better order success. Next slide. So order matching, this is how we talk about with the geocode. What we're looking for is increasing your order follow through, minimizing the slack time with the little wheel spinning on your app saying, looking for drivers or looking for delivery. And what this gets down to is once you've started the order process, a lot of times they give you, okay, your order will be ready in 15 minutes. We want to reduce the possibility and the slack time between when your order gets assigned, when the courier goes and picks it up, and when it gets delivered. You can put all of that together and it increases your SLAs, is what it comes down to. And it gives you a much better way of not only managing your orders, but managing your incentives. What you're seeing here is some isochrones around the matching showing how, the reach and scope of all these orders and where we can match them. And a lot of times you'll see with the internal apps, it's like, okay, how do we incentivize couriers to go to certain places? This is one of the ways you could do it. You can look at it and say, hey, the average distance people are traveling are this. Why don't we move, say, you get an extra $2 delivery incentive if you move to somewhere else. Go on to our next. One of the companies that we do a lot of this is Picnic. Picnic is a on-demand grocer. They have these teeny little carts, and one of the things that we've shown with them and worked with them around that is that because they have these little cars have, tiny wheels and really small suspensions on them, how do we ingest the orders so that they move around the city the way they want them to maximize vehicle longevity, reduce the total cost of owning and repairing one of these vehicles, but in the same time, serving their customers well and giving them the 15 or 30-minute window that they have to get delivered. Next slide, please. Wolt is another one that we work with very they're one of our biggest matrix customers. They came to us with a problem, and this is one of the things that we're working very hard to at Mapbox. Instead of selling products, talking about how they affect the customers and affect your users. They didn't come to us saying, "Hey, we wanted to buy matrix, or we want to buy search, or we want that." They said, "We have an unacceptable amount of deliveries that are over 15 minutes late. 15 minutes late is when they refund the delivery fee." We've worked with them to come up with a solution using matrix and queuing both their delivery drivers as well as their sources, and to come up with a way to most effectively determine the delivery times so that it reduces the slack time for when the courier shows up at the restaurant. There's nothing worse than they're slowing up and it's like, yeah, you got food's not ready yet. You're gonna have to wait for 10 minutes. Well, that's 10 minutes on the clock that may or may not be accounted for. And then going forward to their final destination. We've come after doing this for a little over a year and a half now, that for every $1 that Wolt spends on Matrix, they're saving $2 in refunded delivery fees. And this is a real measurable KPI that not only affects how, day to day, we didn't spend as much money on late deliveries, but for customer retention, they know that a Wolt delivery is more than likely to be on time, and it gives incentive for customers to come back. Next slide, please. So order dispatch. We talk a lot about ETAs, and this is, I will say it because my Maps colleagues are not here, ETAs is the hardest thing that we do. And we have benchmarked ourselves against everyone else at the ETAs, and in general, we come out ahead as far as both accuracy and ability to access them, both real time, like what's traffic going now, and historic traffic, because that's a lot of things, especially when you're doing things like Picnic with the grocery planning, is that they don't care about traffic right now because they're doing all their order planning early in the morning, like 2 or 3 in the morning, so that the trucks are on the road at 6 in the morning. So it's one of those that we can show demonstrably how the asset utilization comes down with better ETAs. And when you increase utilization, you increase your order volumes and increases your courier efficiency. So next slide, please. And then delivery. This is where literally the rubber meets the road. We have in-app navigation. So one, it keeps the couriers working on the right delivery at the right time. Everyone's been in a ride share and seen the driver has one phone with one company, one phone with another company, a third phone for another company, and sometimes they can see lists of which orders could come in, and you're giving the courier the ability to decide. And the courier's decisions are probably not mathematically based on sound operations research estimates. One of the things within that navigation is that you can give your courier not only the places to go to, but how to get them into the right order. And it keeps them in the app focused and doing what you expected them to do based on your own internal optimization or optimization that we can do for you. Putting the maps in there too, the last 100 meters of guidance is something that, one, we're really proud of, and two, is something we think about a lot, especially me, because for some reason people can't read the house number in my house, so I get Instacart and DoorDash orders all the time that aren't mine. One of the things is, people like, oh, it's a 3D map, it looks cool, but what is it to me? You put it in for your courier shows up at the approximate location and can't find a house number, but they can look at the 3D map and go, oh, it's the round building, or oh, it's the third building from the corner. And this is something that we continually work on, continually improve, and continually find new use cases through our customers. So next slide, please. And then order tracking analysis. We can enable internally how to, every turn that your courier took, and did they adhere to the route, and how many times, if they went off the route, did they reroute, and how many times did they reroute because, hey, a new live traffic event happened. So we can go and do the post-mortem on these and come back and improve the product and improve the KPIs around your courier. It also shows transparency and gives your customers trust. They can see where their delivery is. That's kind of something that's expected at this point. And because of that, you can expand it to their marketing channel. What other things are they going by? API? Can you add something to this order or something like that? So it's something more than just, hey, this looks cool on the map. We're starting to track these back to KPIs that go to either reducing operational costs or increase revenue. So next slide. Oh, and this is the part where I have to share my screen. Let's see how bad I screwed this up. Okay, so I want to talk about two separate things that are tremendously accessible to people who are, one's either starting with this or thinking about this. I want to talk about a thing we called isochrones. Isochrones, iso meaning one, chronos meaning time. So let me share my screen. What we have here is a map, shockingly enough. And one of the products that we can come up with that is one of those that looks cool and everyone wants to play with this, and you can go onto our website, go to the documentation under isochrones, and isochrones will you can do exactly this, and everyone likes to drop the pin on their house and see how this works. One of the things that is really important to on-demand logistics company is what is our actual reach and what can we promise to our customers. And a lot of times like, oh, we'll just take a circle and draw 10 miles around our location. That's our service location. That's how it's been done for decades and decades. If you went, 10 years ago to any of the major pizza chains and you look behind the counter and they had the delivery area, it was essentially just a big circle saying, yep, that's 10 miles and that's where he was going to go. The reality of the situation is that there are things that interfere with that 10 miles. Sometimes those are bridges, sometimes those are subways, sometimes those are other things. What this can do for you when you're planning out how your reach for on-demand logistics so you don't overpromise and have the right KPIs set up is that we can give you an actual using traffic and all sorts of our internal data for directions and give you a polygon showing you where you actually can go. So this is doing it's 10-minute driving with traffic. We can change that to walking, which is obviously 6 more. We could change that to cycling. And as you can see, the way that this is a good point, driving traffic, okay, you can go and do the bridge and tunnel thing over to New Jersey. Cycling, you can't get in the tunnel. So, not that you would ever want to be in the Lincoln Tunnel on a bicycle to begin with, even if you could, but it shows, hey, this is something that we can take advantage of. It's like if all of our couriers are on bicycles, which is becoming more and more, okay, we can't do New Jersey. If we can, we gotta have to have a car if we expect to do deliveries to New Jersey. Another thing that's neat at too, I won't show this to its paint. We can put it depart at times because a lot of things, okay, this is showing live traffic right now and what traffic is in Midtown Manhattan. Let's maybe you are a food delivery and most of your deliveries are for dinner. Well, you can change that. Okay, we want to see what is traffic. Use the typical traffic used at 7 o'clock in the evening. Things like that. You can put all kinds of parameters in here and figure out really where the reach is so you can meet your KPIs. Another use of this is we see a lot is places with multiple locations. Where do I put my next location? Anecdotally, I helped my barber was looking to open a new location. So we plotted isochrones for every barber shop in North Denver and figure out, okay, where are an underserved area for a barber shop? Things like that. Ghost kitchens use this a lot to figure out, okay, based on, our customer base, find where the customers are, draw around, where can we get a 10-minute thing. So this is something you can go play with. We have a huge free tier for this. And go play around with it and figure out, how this can serve and say, hey, where is our service area and how we can go with it. Other thing I want to show you is our optimization API, which is in beta right now, but it's a pretty strong beta. There's a couple of known items, but in general, we have folks who have this in production right now, using it even in the beta. So, problem we're trying to solve is you have a bunch of sources, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's a warehouse, you have a bunch of places that need to be delivered to, and you have a limited amount of vehicles that can do it. What is the best assignment for each one of those vehicles to minimize your operating costs and maximize your customer happiness getting things to this? This is something that everyone who, myself included, who has a operations research management science has sat down and done it on Excel. And, you'd hit the solver and go solve, and then you go eat dinner and play with your kids and watch a TV program. And maybe 5 hours later, it'll come back with an answer, or it'll come back and say unsolvable. There's also on the other end, and I'll use my competitors because they're fantastic, NVIDIA. NVIDIA has a program that has all kinds of inputs and you can modify it, and it's super fast, and it costs at a minimum $1 million a year, and you're going to need at least 2 people to help program it. If you're a UPS or a FedEx, yes, that's your solution. What we're trying to do with this is have an API solution that's super lightweight, takes the most important things out there, like refrigerated vehicles versus non-refrigerated vehicles for food delivery, or we do a lot with utilities companies. A lot of utilities companies, they only have a welder on 20% of their vehicles because welders tend to get stolen. So, hey, does this vehicle need a welder, or does this job need a welder? So we can assign a vehicle. Being able to put little things, but making this lightweight enough that, one, it's an API call, so you don't have to have anything on-prem, or people who really understand the interfaces. Like the NVIDIA one, it's brilliant, but you really need to have a thorough understanding on how to make this work. And this is just yep, we know vehicles, we know capacities, we know abilities, and be able to go back and forth. One of the use cases we see with this a lot is that the big grocery chains have now, each of these locations has like 3 or 4 vehicles to do home delivery. And it's not huge, but they don't want to have a big mainframe backend system to optimize this. They can just have a portal on the internal website and say, here are the deliveries we need to make. And it can do it very lightweight. So I'm going to do a couple of things. Let's show. So we can add your pickup locations. And yeah, these are kind of canned because we want to make it go fast. If you've done these optimization problems before, you know that a lot of times hours. My old job, we had thousands of ends. We would start the run when we left work, and it would be done at 2 in the morning when they assigned the trucks. So this is meant to be light and fast. So we have a bunch of places to pick up. We have a bunch of places to drop off, which would be our customers. Let's make 75. A whole bunch of them. Let's continue. Let's add, each one of these now. Okay, you can have pickups, you have drop-offs. You could have, how many shipments to go between there. And we'll just auto assign these. So yeah, here are all the places where they need to be picked up, dropped off. And then vehicles. Let's give us 10 of them. I think 10. Yeah, 10 is the most I can do for this, just to make it fast. You can do, I've seen hundreds of vehicles on this, and I've seen thousands of pickups and drop-offs. We just have it limited because those calculations can take 20, 30 minutes to come up with, and it will find your solution. So what will come out of the optimization if it finds a solution? Now we've got some parameters in there that if it doesn't find a solution, you have to start dropping pickups or drop-offs and unassigned vehicles. But this one, it did find a solution. And what it will give you, we have it visualized here, but the return it's like, okay, vehicle 1, here you're assigned, here's the pickups and here's the drop-offs you're assigned. Vehicle 2, here's the pickups, here's the drop-offs you're assigned. And then you can place this into our directions API, those results. You can do multiple stops in our directions API, and it will give the routes. And then you can put those routes into our directions nav SDK, which will be able to show it on the map, showing the route, and do turn-by-turn directions. But these are all the stops for vehicle 9. Here are all the stops for vehicle 8. And this is one of those things that's interesting sometimes. It's like, oh, there's only 1 pickup and 1 drop-off. We see this a lot here in Denver during ski season. I use my fish provider because I know the guy. In the summer, no one in the mountains is ordering fish on a daily basis. During the winter, all the ski resorts are ordering, something or another. So you'll have this normal looking distribution network, and then you'll have, when things change, all of a sudden you'll have 1 truck just going one direction, doing 1 drop off, simply because that's the optimized location. Compared to this, vehicle 6 is doing 7 of them, but they're all, fairly close together. So it's an interesting way of doing it. It's very lightweight. It's very fast comparable to like the other solutions. And the idea is we're able to take very high level management science type solutions and algorithms and make them accessible to places that aren't used to or have the need for this, but it's just too far out of reach as far as time and resources to implement one of these ERP solutions. So I will stop there because you've seen enough of my demos, and hand it back to Krika.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. With that, we have come to our Q&A session. So let me see if I can't pull up some of the questions here that have been coming in. And it looks like we have an initial question for Ryan, I think. Let's see here. So Ryan, what are some of the exciting things that Mapbox is working on for on-demand logistics?
So yeah, this is one of those that the more we do, the more we learn, and the more our customers learn too. It's fun sometimes because it's like we didn't think this was something we can affect. It was something we just assumed we were gonna have to live with, and then no, we're able to build around that. The big one right now that we're running into is a lot of these on-demand logistics companies are turning to bicycle couriers, and it's not surprising. Pretty much all of Germany is done on bicycles. Most of Western Europe, it has at least a bicycle component. And we're seeing a lot more in North America right now. Specifically here in Denver, there is a huge push for subsidies on electric bikes. They are laying down bike lanes as fast as they can. And a lot of on-demand logistics companies are looking at this and going, this is a better way and a more efficient way of making deliveries. The problem is there are a lot of within municipalities, places where bicycles are not allowed. And in the past, we could just put a geofence around there and draw a polygon and say, don't go there. But you would still navigate through there. There's no way to navigate around there through there because a road is a road. We have a new product that is in beta right now called Bring Your Own Navigation Data Beyond. And what we can do with it is you can come in and say, here are prohibited areas. Here are places we don't want our couriers going. We see a lot in Europe. These are bad roads that are made of cobblestone and they eat our vehicles up, and we would really prefer they avoid these roads at possible. And instead of just saying, no, don't go down there, well, you just gave me a route that goes down there. We can build routes around these places, which one gives you a ability to stay in compliance with municipal laws. So your courier doesn't drive through a park, gets pulled over and fined and say, well, my app told me I could drive right through this park. No, you now can show you can navigate around, as well as I was mentioning, navigate around places that are dangerous or not healthy to your vehicles. So that is coming. If you are interested in it, please send us an email through our portal or contact us directly. We'll be happy to discuss it with you right now. We are implementing it as the meeting I was on before this right now with a major on-demand provider, because they have been shut out of some markets because they have said, the fines have been too large. It's like every time we try this, all of a sudden municipality fines us for every time it goes through, and we need to demonstrate that we are not routing these vehicles through places that are prohibited.
Great. Thank you for that. Great overview. And I know that there are a lot of customers out there that need this type of routing. I have a question from the audience saying, if I have 150 coordinates of 150 places that I have to visit in a single trip, can I use Mapbox to optimize this route?
Yes. The limits that we have in place that you see in our documentation are primarily there to keep bad actors out. Sign up, if you go to the documentation page for optimization, sign up for it, and then put in the bulk, hey, you change our limits. 99% of the time we can. So your numbers though are well within the capabilities of the API.
Great, thank you. Next, how can companies or users get started using Mapbox for their own on-demand logistics operation?
We have a very generous free tier, which makes me pound my head against the table sometimes. So if you go sign up for a Mapbox account, we have a very healthy documentation. And if you miss something, go to Discord. We have a very active Discord community with several of our support engineers always in there, as well as the documentation team. I occasionally get in there depending on the nature of the problem, and we are there to help you out and get you started. We also have, if you go on YouTube, there's a bunch of demonstrations that are there that can get you pointed in the right direction very quickly, as well as they will reference some of the code snippets within our documentation, so you can cut and paste a lot of it. Anecdotally, we know folks who have gotten things like our Nav SDK up and running in a day. Now, it's not perfect. It doesn't have, all the customization features that our Nav SDK wants, but you can get it working very quickly.
Awesome. Thank you. Yep. And you can sign up for a Mapbox account right at mapbox.com. And you can see all of what's included in the free tier if you go to our pricing page. All right. Another question, Ryan, for you. Can I create isochrones in Mapbox Studio and use the polygon as a style or tile set in Power BI?
I believe so. I'm not a big Power BI user, so I'm not going to say 100%. That's a great question to put on our Discord, though, because we have people who are very, very involved with Power BI and integrations, as well as places like Snowflake and Tableau around that. So that's another one along with on-demand logistics. The internal analytics is another focus area here at Mapbox, and but the Discord team will be happy to point you in the right direction there.
Great. Let's see. Does Mapbox support geofencing to trigger notifications or alerts when delivery of vehicles enter or leave specified areas?
It's not, yes. The short answer is yes, we can do it. The longer answer is we don't have a geofencing API. We're actually considering it right now. It's something that we might do because we get this answer a lot, but I'm just gonna keep throwing the poor people in Discord under the bus. That it's something that we have plenty of experience with customers implementing that sort of thing within our SDK. And it's just not a straightforward, here's your geofencing API. And now with Beyond 2, you can bring, it used to be geofencing, the polygons were hard to ingest at times. You had to sometimes manually draw them in and enter them. Now with Beyond, where the bring your own navigation data, we've got a way to automatically ingest and update those sort of things that we didn't have before.
Great. I have a question that's come in regards to the route optimization for cycling profile.
Yes.
Is there a specific way to take into account specific parameters such as courier endurance, fatigue, or weather?
That's a really great point. We are working on weather right now because that is something that we can ingest the data. I don't want to say easily, but the data is available. We are also working very closely with both OEM manufacturers and some of these delivery platforms on how to maximize using e-bikes, because e-bikes are something that 5 years ago were a novelty and now are being used all over the place to make deliveries. We can do it with cars, and that was our initial focus because we were releasing navigation solutions for EV cars, and charge anxiety is real, and figuring out how to navigate EV cars taking into account charging. We're just starting working on that with bicycles. We have not thought fatigue yet. One of the things we found too is most of the routes that are done by on-demand logistics are well under 10 kilometers from time the couriers assigned to the time they deliver it. So we haven't seen a lot of need for that, because once the couriers fatigue, they sign out, and because they're not full-time employees, they can sign in and sign out wherever they want. So it's not something that we've seen before, but we are trying to take into account the EV nature of the vehicles now.
Excellent. And I've got one final question I think we have
Sure.
time for, which is when will optimization V2 leave beta and go into production? Do we have a rough timeline for that, Ryan?
We are hoping for early next year. It's one of those that because it's such a complicated problem, I mean, I said, well, the on-prem solution starts at $1 million plus 2 people. So there are a lot, making the necessary bug fixes are not quite as straightforward as a lot of our other products. That being said, I very well encourage you to use it, especially while it's free, because everyone likes free, and we have people using it in production and they're using it successfully. The limitations are known and are documented. So please, if you work around there, more than happy to. As far as pricing goes, because it already, and if you're an operations person, hopefully you'll understand this, it has an internal matrix call. So think of it as our current optimization 1 pricing plus how many matrix calls is going to be probably about equal to the price.
Excellent. Excellent. So I want to thank everyone, first of all, for all of your questions. We have so many that we can't get to all of them in this session, but please just know if you did submit us a question, we are capturing those and we will be reaching out individually to make sure that those questions get answered. So we love the participation. Thank you so much. And then lastly, if you would please provide some feedback by filling out the last poll here, just a couple of real quick questions, just to help us improve this experience for audiences such as yourself. But again, we really appreciate the attendance and the great participation we had today. So thank you very much.